we're gonna dive into your basketball career, man. A lot of people it's documented, and I got a chance to play with you your first 2 years at IU. And obviously, there was an adjustment that you struggled to make when it comes to playing at that level. You found your niche, and you were very, very competitive, and you contributed. But it wasn't up to your standards or those standards that were following you were coming in. What do you think attributed to the struggles you had, mainly offensively, your first couple of years at IU playing for Coach Knight?
Well, I was really well coached, AJ, when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
and I relied a lot on effort, working hard, and I do think I had a ceiling. But I also think when I arrived here, players were clearly better or more adept at playing in the system, and there was that constant tug of war of, should I pass it to the guys that can really score it, or should I do my thing? And if you think about it, that's quite a tug of war,
Right.
because when I wasn't a selfish player, neither were you.
Right.
I didn't think we had any, ultimately selfish players, but we just had some guys with different mindsets at that time. And so that tug of war relented to, a lack of confidence. It really was a challenge, confidence wise, and yet ego and wanting to play and wanting to win. There were certain things I felt that I did better at than certain players on the team, than most players on the team.
Uh-huh.
And so I still was able to provide value, and essentially, the staff played me partly because they felt they needed to. And the other part is that's what you try to do with young kids, is bring them along and try to give them confidence in certain spots in a game or a practice. And I thought Coach Knight, he handled it really well. He handled it really well because, like you said, I was brought in to do a job and do some tasks. And I think Coach Knight was able to acknowledge and recognize that there's been many players that had been through those struggles and that tug of war. And I think he did see value in what I was providing, regardless of offensive output, that I could bring to the team. So I appreciated that he stuck with me. I think I'm second in starts, AJ, all time at Indiana. I could be down the list now, but I finished second in starts behind Newton, only because I bit a fingernail too low and had to miss 2 games. I think it was your sophomore year, or my sophomore year, your senior year in Indianapolis, and I got a staph infection.
Because you bit your fingernail too low?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Hey, man. And so I understand, I played with you, and I played for Coach Knight, so I understand exactly what you mean. But what I'm trying to get is, because I always looked at, playing basketball offensively as a mentality. It was like, all right, I'm here. My story was a lot different than yours. I came in, nobody knew who the hell I was.
Yeah.
They was waiting to see who, if he was going to be good enough to contribute, let alone, be there consistently, contribute every night. But in my confidence grew, each game. I tell people all the time, I missed my first 19 threes as a freshman. I was 0 for 19, you know what I mean? So, but I knew in my mind, I was like, man, I'm going to make one of these. When I make one, it's over. And against Duke in the Garden, I finally made one. And then I think I shot like 47% for the rest of the year, and it averaged out to 40. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how it went. How does one go from Mr. Basketball, one of the top scorers, confidence out the wazoo, to, shot faking a wide open shot? You know what I'm saying? And when that's, because people don't know this, when we had our red and white scrimmage or something, you went bananas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hell yeah, we got enough finally. Like, you know what I'm saying? You had probably, if you had to add it up, you might have 30, 40 points. You made everything. Everything went. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember.
No, I do. I think I had 19 in first half.
Yeah.
Then I got switched teams. We won't name any names, and I had 2 in the second half. But you're right. I didn't get any shots.
I ain't give you the ball.
I don't know who it was. It was Luke was definitely on the team.
Oh yeah,
And it might have been you and Luke. We might have popped you and Luke.
I might have hit you when you was old. Luke wasn't giving it to you.
Yeah.
But how mentally, how do you go from that to that?
Well, I think I was a ticking time bomb because I'd had spurts in high school where I just went in the tank. And it wasn't all the way in the tank because I was physically and just better than, and then there were certain, a bounce back game where we play somebody that was just so bad, I was able to get my confidence back. But, if you think about it, AJ, you get your confidence, they say you get your confidence in practice, but when you play against it, it is hard to get things done in practice in that realm, right. You could go get a basket anytime you wanted. You really could practice games, but all in all, and by and large, it's hard in practice offensively because everybody knows what everybody's doing.
Yes.
And it makes it more difficult. And then there's certain settings where it's just half court, but it was funny because when I'd get the ball in a game, in an actual game, and it was so easy visually. It just looked the court was wide open, but I just couldn't get it to click where the right play was made.
Right.
And it looked easy. Everything just looked so open, but it just, I lost that connection between brain and body.
Right. Yeah.
Visually, brain and body. And it just, that happens quick. It happens quick.
I can always tell when a player is not there mentally because they miss a lot of layups. I mean, like easy baskets, like stuff that you just routine. I remember when I got older and it was time to hang the gym shoes up. I go to the gym, make a backdoor cut, easy, and just miss it. I'm like, it's time to shut it down. So that even from high school and college, I always knew that. I remember there was a period where you couldn't make a layup to where in the game, the crowd would cheer because Dane made the layup, and everybody holding their breath. And that's just, it tells me something ain't connecting.
That's right.
It needs to be connected. I remember that time, man. And
it turns into anxiety. And what happens that's fight or flight and your hands, you think about a fist fight. When you're in the middle of the fight and you hit somebody and you don't feel it. Well, it's fight or flight when you're trying to shoot, AJ, and you don't feel your hands, essentially.
Right, exactly.
It's foreign to you.
Right.
And people go through it. I mean, it's putting in golf, it's pitching in baseball, and it's generally with the ball. And the main area you can see it for everybody is free throws.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
That's a lonely spot.
Yep.
And I would bet that we could still go. We could go in the gym, and AJ Guyton would probably go 100 out of 100. At worst, 99.
Yep, 99.
You get him in that setting, and for whatever reason, you're probably only going 91, 92.
Right.
And that's anxiety. That's distractions. That's things that are forcing you and bringing your mind away from the task at hand and taken away from your confidence, even if just a little bit.
This question is kind of twofold. Do you think if Coach Knight had handled or approached you differently, because Coach coached everybody the same?
Yeah.
If you was stinking it up, you was stinking it up for that 2 weeks. Like he wasn't letting up off of you. So this was what they call it, the mental, the how he played with you mentally. That's what they called it.
Yeah.
We call it was coaching. It was like trying to motivate you to get yourself out the funk by using that. Do you think that if he would have approached you differently and handled you different, or did he have any impact on you gaining that anxiety? And how would you tell if you talk to your younger self now, how would you handle it now as opposed to how you handled it then?
You know what? I'm going to get pretty deep here, but I think all that stuff gets sorted out from childhood.
Okay.
And I think that I was destined, or it was inevitable, that there was a potential crash in terms of my mindset. It didn't mean I couldn't come out of it, but in those younger years, you know, the immaturity, the brain still developing, the losing of priorities, the trying to produce a fake happiness to counteract the frustration of not being able to play the way I was used to playing.
Right.
I think all that's sorted out. It doesn't mean anything devastating or bad happened to me in my childhood. It just means all that stuff is sorted out, because I felt those kind of things when I was younger, even then. And like I said, it kind of went away. But as the pressure kept getting bigger, the stakes getting higher, it was inevitable that there was going to be a rock bottom in terms of my game. And I just needed to keep fighting out of it. And I don't think there's any right way. You don't just shoot more shots, come in the gym and shoot more shots. It's a mindset. It's a perspective. And that's the one thing I believe that, you know, Coach Davis helped me with, but Coach Knight would have helped me with had he been here. It's just with perspective, just was bringing me along. So Coach Knight had nothing to do ultimately with my choke, because that's what it was. The disappearance of my offensive prowess. I think Coach Knight was a brilliant coach, a brilliant tactician, that he really didn't. I don't think his interest or his coaching approach hurt offensive players. I think it helped. I think it stimulated. I think Coach Knight was more interested in the discipline of the game, teaching discipline, where Coach Knight did a lot of yelling with effort and lack of discipline.
Right. Okay.
And that mainly took place on the defensive end, or things without the ball, which was screening, passing a little bit, but cutting, spacing. And that was the brilliance of him. And that's why his team scored a lot, because he didn't really mess with offensive players in terms of their mind games. But did man discipline and coming in and working to get ready to team.
Definitely. I mean, I can attest to that, because I remember many times I had a bad game, and you know, when you had a bad game, he put you back on the team, and he just chastised you for every little mistake you made. But I never internalized that. I was like, all right, I didn't produce yesterday. I deserve that. Let me go out here and score every single point the way he wants me to score it. So get my ass back. That was the mentality. And then it's almost like once you are back on that team, your confidence grew back.
That's right.
I'm back. Like that's how I handle it. But you know, we had a lot of addictions. We had a lot of guys transfer. I had Neil Reed, rest in peace. Neil Reed left my freshman year. Sophomore year, Jason Collier left. In my junior year, Luke Recker left. So that's 3 McDonald's All-American, 3 big, huge pieces to the puzzle that leave, and you're trying to pick up the pieces. But you managed to persevere and stay, because being a McDonald's All-American, all that, and you struggled, but you came back, you know. And I part of it I know is because he still played you, because he saw the value in you. But why didn't you flight? Because I am irritated. I can say this because I'm not a coach. I'm irritated with the flight mechanism that the NCAA seems to be encouraging, allowing people to just leave whenever they fight. You know, whenever there's trouble, you can transfer now, you can go, you don't have to, you know, don't say you don't have to, because not every situation you should have to stay in. But once you commit to something, you should be committed to that for a time period, and not just leave when you struggle. And it seems like we're going that direction. Like, okay, and it's harder on you as a coach, as recruiting. You almost have to. You guys are in the free agent pool every year, which they call the transfer portal. Like, and you got to be in there, or you're going to not have a team that can compete. Why didn't you decide to, you know what? I was the man last year. I'm finna go somewhere else and be the man.
Well, I loved Indiana, and I loved the fans. I loved my friends, and I loved playing for Coach Knight. And that really was my dream. And I was able to recognize that my struggles happened in high school too, with my own dad. My struggles happened in, you know, a little moment, 6th grade AAU,
Right.
that I came out of, but
Mhm.
it had nothing to do really with Coach Knight. It
Yeah.
had everything to do with me and the decisions, the choices, the perspective that I had.
Mhm.
And so I knew what I wanted out of it. And it wasn't just like for you and it wasn't simply about me. And
Mhm.
remember after a practice, after we lost to Purdue, I think it was, I can't remember, freshman or sophomore year, but I was running my mouth in practice.
Mhm.
And I remember writing a note to Coach Knight and just kind of bringing everything back into perspective. And, I tend to speak, tend to write my mind or speak
Right.
my mind. And
Mhm.
I just remember telling him, I'm here. I want what I want out of it, but I want to win a national, number 4 for Coach Knight. I
Right.
said, we all do, but
Mhm.
that was what was important to me and what I wanted out of it.
Mhm. Absolutely, man. So and I mean, people they have to grasp the fact that I believe that, you have to persevere, like you talked about, a lot of trauma, a lot of things that you develop as a youngster, as a teenager comes from when you're young, man. And
Yeah.
you have to look that thing in the eye and make sure that you're competitive against that trauma as well. We, especially as an African American young man, went through a lot of trauma, you know what I'm saying? So it was like
Yeah.
a blessing for me just to be around y'all.
Right.
And it was a fault. We talked about this too. It was a fault to me because I didn't understand what it really took to win a championship.
Yeah.
And it was because I didn't come from guys behind me winning championships or somebody telling me before I got to Indiana. Like, I just knew to play hard as you could, be unselfish, have fun, compete, and I knew I had a special talent. But as adults, you look back and you be like, man, that moment in time when I was 7, where, I backed down one time, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could have, if I would have fought that time, I would have developed that super competitive advantage that the Michaels and the Isaiah Thomases had, that I just didn't possess. And that's just being hindsight, being 2020.
Right.
But, one of my greatest accomplishments was making it through. And I don't want to say making it through, because when people ask me all the time, they think that playing in Indiana was difficult. Like, it was not hard at all. In fact, it was fairly easy.
Yeah.
Like, it was easy. It was like, you had moments. Coach Knight didn't like to lose to cheating coaches. That he didn't like to lose to Purdue. You lost them games, you're gonna pay for that. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, it was a cakewalk. And I would send my kid to go play again and again and again for Coach Knight. I don't mean that to toot his horns. Like,
no,
it made me a disciplined athlete, and it made me think the game in a way I never thought about it before. You know what I'm saying? So,
that's right.
So I appreciate that candidness, man. You another opportunity came to transfer and you didn't take it when Coach Knight was eventually let go. And I know it's a tough time for everybody. And I always thought what was going through the process of everybody who was there, especially the guys who had played for him for a couple of years. What went through your mind when he left? And did you really consider about, okay, I came here to play for him, I might have to get out of here? And what ultimately pulled you back in?
Well, when Coach Knight was fired, one of the things right out of the gate that I had in mind was I didn't want to play for another staff. I wanted to go to a staff that I was familiar with and another coach that I was familiar with. And so I right when Coach got fired, it was assumed that everybody was fired. And so I did. I had said I'd ask Coach if he could, call a few schools. And he tried to say, "Hey, look, are you sure? You should. I want you to consider staying. This isn't about him. It's about, staying for the school, staying with the team." And I had said that's not what I don't want to play for another staff. And so he understood that. He helped me. But then it started coming out that you know, that it would be Coach Davis's job, or one of the two, Coach Davis or Coach Treelord. So that, you know, aside from, you know, some teammates talking to me about staying, you know, ultimately it was a pretty easy decision that I was going to stay, as long as they maintained the staff and kept the staff together with Coach Davis, Coach Treelord.